Marcus Chun had promised his wife Elena that Dubai would be their fresh start, their paradise built on trust and billion-dollar dreams. But in the blood-soaked presidential suite of the Atlantis Hotel, surrounded by photographs of his secret Islamic family, Elena would prove that some promises are better broken than kept, especially when breaking them involve a marble trophy in her husband's skull. If you're fascinated by how billion-dollar fortunes can hide devastating betrayals, and how one woman's discovery of her husband's double life led to Dubai's most shocking murder case, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. You won't want to miss how this story unfolds. But let's go back to where it all began. Singapore's Marina Bay, April 2019, where Elena Rodriguez first met the man who would destroy her life. The charity gala was packed with tech billionaires writing tax-deductible checks. Elena wasn't there to network. At 28, she'd already made her first $10 million analyzing cryptocurrency markets for Blackstone Capital. Her prediction of the 2018 Bitcoin crash had made her a legend in international finance. She was attending because her firm expected it, nothing more. Marcus Chun stood apart from the crowd. It wasn't just his Taylor Tom Ford suit or the Patek Philippe that cost more than most houses. Something in the way he observed the room suggested a chess player thinking 3 moves ahead. When their eyes met across the ballroom, Elena felt something she trained herself never to feel in professional settings: genuine curiosity. Within 10 minutes of conversation, they were debating emerging markets in the Gulf region. Marcus described Dubai with intimate knowledge, calling it a place where old-world values and new-world wealth created opportunities traditional markets could never offer. Elena found herself impressed, not by his obvious wealth or extensive connections, but by his mind. Marcus thought like she did, in patterns and probabilities, in calculated moves. He'd built Chun Global Properties from nothing, transforming his father's small import business into a real estate empire spanning 3 continents. His latest project, a sustainable luxury development on Dubai's Palm Jumeirah, was attracting attention from environmental groups and royal families alike. What Elena couldn't know was that every word Marcus spoke that night was carefully constructed performance. The man she was falling for didn't exist. He was a character Marcus had created specifically for women like her, ambitious, intelligent, Western women who could provide access to international financial markets and legitimate business credentials. Their courtship unfolded across 6 months and 4 continents. Weekend trips to his private villa in Bali. A week in London where Marcus introduced her to business partners who never quite explained what they actually did. Christmas in New York where he somehow charmed Elena's mother Rosa, a Bronx single mother who'd worked 3 jobs to put her daughter through school and trusted no one, especially wealthy men with perfect smiles. Rosa sensed something calculated in Marcus's eyes, too practiced, too perfect. She never voiced these concerns, not wanting to dim her daughter's happiness. She'd regret that silence for the rest of her life. The proposal came in March 2020 on a yacht off the Amalfi Coast. Marcus had arranged every detail with military precision. The sunset timing, the champagne vintage, the 6-carat diamond that caught Mediterranean light like captured fire. Elena said yes before he finished asking. She believed she'd solved the great equation of her life. Professional success plus personal happiness equals fulfillment. The mathematics were perfect. Their wedding at Dubai's Burj Al Arab 6 months later cost $3 million and attracted 500 guests for Marcus's international network. Elena wore custom Verawan. The ceremony blended Western traditions with Eastern touches Marcus explained as respect for his Chinese heritage and adopted home. What Elena didn't notice was the careful curation of the guest list. Every person came from either Marcus's international business circles or Elena's professional world. Not a single person from Dubai's traditional local community attended. Not one member of the Chun family's Emirati connections was present. The wedding existed in a carefully constructed bubble, separate from the other life Marcus had been building in parallel. The honeymoon in the Maldives felt like a dream. Private overwater bungalows, diving in crystal waters. Marcus attentive and present in ways that made Elena feel like the center of his universe. He talked about their future with reassuring specificity, where they'd live, how they'd balance careers, when they might start a family. Every conversation reinforced Elena's belief that she'd made the right choice. Their Dubai life began in a marina penthouse, all floor-to-ceiling windows and minimalist luxury. Marcus actively sought Elena's financial expertise for Chun Global Properties investments. She began consulting on international deals, applying her hedge fund experience to real estate markets. Her recommendations proved profitable, earning praise from Marcus's associates. What Elena couldn't see was how her expertise was being weaponized. Every smart strategy she developed legitimized money flowing through increasingly complex international channels. Her brilliant mind was now covering operations that would have horrified her. The first 6 months felt perfect, or nearly so. Small oddities appeared that Elena explained away. Marcus's weekend absences, always attributed to property inspections. His second phone buzzing with Arabic messages he'd answer in another room. The way certain topics, his conversion to Islam, mentioned casually one evening, or his involvement with Emirati families, were deflected whenever she asked for details. Minor concerns in an otherwise ideal marriage. Elena was building her own consultancy, making friends among Dubai's expatriate professional women. Her life felt full, purposeful, exactly what she'd worked to achieve. What Elena didn't know was that 15 kilometers away in the traditional Bastakia quarter, another woman was living a parallel life. Layla al-Hashimi believed she was Marcus's only wife, mother of his children, center of his world when he came home each Thursday evening. She knew nothing about Elena, just as Elena knew nothing about her. Both women had been deceived with masterful precision, kept ignorant through carefully managed schedules and elaborate lies. Marcus Chin wasn't living a double life. He was living 2 completely separate lives with the skill of a professional operative. To Elena, he was Marcus Chun, international businessman. To Layla, he was Rashid Al-Chin, devoted Muslim husband. The truth was Marcus was neither and both simultaneously. A creation of his own ambition, who'd realized success in Dubai required perfect code switching between cultures. The first crack in Elena's perfect marriage appeared on a Thursday morning in November 2020, 6 months after their wedding. Marcus was packing for what he called a routine weekend inspection of Chun Global's Abu Dhabi properties. Elena watched him select clothes she'd never seen him wear: casual cotton shirts instead of his usual designer labels, traditional sandals instead of Italian leather shoes. When she commented on the change, Marcus kissed her forehead and explained that construction sites required practical clothing, not boardroom fashion. The explanation made sense, but something in his hurried packing suggested a man preparing for something other than business meetings. These weekend trips followed a precise pattern that Elena's analytical mind couldn't help but notice. Every Thursday evening, Marcus would leave around 6. Every Sunday afternoon, he'd return exhausted in ways that property inspections couldn't explain. His usual energy would be replaced by satisfied relaxation, like someone who'd spent the weekend at home rather than managing construction projects. The Thursday departures became sacred, immovable fixtures in their schedule that took priority over everything else, including their 6-month anniversary dinner that Marcus canceled with apologetic explanations about emergency contractor meetings. Elena's friends in Dubai's expatriate community seemed oddly uncomfortable whenever she mentioned Marcus's weekend schedule. Sarah Bennett, a British attorney married to an Emirati businessman, would change the subject whenever Elena complained about being left alone every weekend. Jennifer Wu, whose husband ran a shipping company, made vague comments about cultural complications in Dubai business that Elena didn't understand. These women had lived in Dubai longer, understood complexities that Elena was still learning. Their discomfort felt like knowledge they couldn't or wouldn't share. The second phone became Elena's obsession. Marcus carried 2 devices, his international iPhone for business and a local Emirati number that buzzed constantly with messages in Arabic. When Elena asked about the texts, Marcus would wave dismissively, explaining they were from contractors who preferred communicating in Arabic. But Elena noticed he always moved to another room to respond, and his face would soften in ways it never did during actual business calls. Once, when Marcus was in the shower, Elena glanced at the Arabic phone left on their nightstand. The lock screen showed a message notification with a woman's name, Layla, followed by Arabic text Elena couldn't read. When she asked Marcus about Layla later, claiming she'd seen the name somewhere, His expression flickered with something that looked like panic before smoothing into casual explanation. Layla al-Hashimi was the lead architect on their Bistakia quarter restoration project. Marcus said, an important local partner who handled cultural liaison with traditional Emirati families. The explanation was detailed enough to sound true, and Elena felt guilty for her suspicion. Financial irregularities started appearing in their shared accounts. Large cash withdrawals every Thursday, always between $5,000 and $8,000. When Elena questioned them, Marcus explained they were for cultural business entertainment, gifts and dinners necessary for maintaining relationships with traditional families. The amounts seemed excessive, but Elena reminded herself she didn't understand local business customs. Her expertise was in international markets, not Dubai's intricate social obligations. More concerning were property transfers she discovered while reviewing Chun Global's investment portfolio. Assets were moving into structures Elena didn't recognize. Al-Hashimi Holdings, Desert Moon Investments, Emirates Family Trust. When she asked Marcus about the restructuring, his answers were vague. Tax efficiency, he'd say. The legal team handles those details. But Elena's hedge fund training had taught her to recognize money laundering patterns, and something about these transfers triggered professional alarm bells she tried to ignore. School fees appeared on their credit card statements in December. Expensive amounts, $35,000, charged to Dubai International Academy. When Elena mentioned planning for their own future children, Marcus deflected. Let's establish ourselves first, he'd say. We have time. But someone was apparently already benefiting from sterling family educational investments, and Marcus's explanations about charitable scholarships for employees' children felt rehearsed. The locked study in their penthouse became another mystery. Marcus claimed it contained sensitive business documents requiring special security. But one afternoon, when contractors were repairing the penthouse's air conditioning system, Elena noticed something strange. The study appeared larger from the outside than the inside, suggesting hidden space behind the visible walls. When she mentioned this architectural oddity to Marcus, he laughed it off as quirky Dubai construction standards. His casual dismissal felt wrong, like someone hiding something obvious. Elena's social isolation began to feel deliberate rather than coincidental. Marcus discouraged her from learning Arabic, calling it unnecessarily difficult for international business. He carefully curated their social events to include only Western expatriates or international visitors who wouldn't know local family structures. Invitations to traditional Emirati gatherings never included Elena. Marcus would attend alone, explaining that these were men-only business events or that Elena would be uncomfortable in such traditional settings. Other expatriate wives in their circle seemed to understand something Elena didn't. Victoria Chun started researching her husband with the same methodical approach she'd applied to market analysis. She hired a translator to teach her Arabic in secret, claiming she wanted to surprise Marcus with her cultural integration. She began photographing the locked study's exterior dimensions and comparing them to interior measurements. She started tracking Marcus's credit card charges and cross-referencing them with his claimed business locations. What Elena discovered made her question everything. The Thursday credit card charges weren't from Abu Dhabi at all. They were from Dubai's Bistakia quarter, the same traditional neighborhood where Marcus's supposed architect Layla al-Hashimi worked. The pattern repeated every week without variation. Purchases from local grocery stores, charges from traditional restaurants, payments to Dubai Islamic schools. These weren't business expenses. They were domestic costs, the kind of regular purchases that families made. Elena's breaking point came in February 2021 during a charity event at the Emirates Palace. Elena's hand shook as she contacted Layla Hassan Investigations 3 days after the charity gala. The firm specialized in discreet family investigations, handling cases involving Dubai's complex international marriages. Layla Hassan herself, a former police detective, understood the cultural nuances that could destroy expatriate families. Elena paid the $25,000 retainer from her London account, money Marcus couldn't trace. I need to know what my husband does during his weekend trips, Elena explained in Layla's office overlooking the Dubai Creek. I think there are things about his life I don't know. She couldn't yet say the words, second wife, other family, aloud. Layla's team began surveillance the following Thursday. Their first report arrived 72 hours later with photographs that destroyed Elena's remaining illusions. Marcus didn't drive to Abu Dhabi. He drove 30 minutes to Bistakia Quarter, parking outside a traditional courtyard house with carved wooden doors and wind towers. The images showed Marcus emerging from his Range Rover wearing a white kandura, the flowing Emirati robe Elena had never seen. A woman in an abaya waited at the doorway, embracing him with unmistakable intimacy. Two small children, a boy around 4 and a girl barely 2, ran to Marcus with the uninhibited joy of children greeting their father. "Her name is Layla al-Hashimi," the investigator explained, spreading additional photographs across her desk. 26 years old, architecture professor at American University of Sharjah. She has 2 children with your husband. They call him Baba. The children's features were unmistakably Marcus's. The same dark eyes, the same smile, the same dimple in the left cheek. Elena stared at the images, calculating what they meant. While she'd been planning their future, Marcus had already built one with someone else. The property investigation revealed devastating scope. The Bistakia house was purchased 4 years ago through Desert Moon Holdings, established months after Elena first met Marcus in Singapore. The property was registered under Marcus's Islamic name, Rashid Alchin. He converted to Islam 5 years ago, Layla explained, producing official documentation. The conversion was necessary for his marriage to Layla under UAE family law. Their Islamic ceremony was performed 8 months before your wedding. Elena studied the marriage certificate, noting the Arabic calligraphy that made Marcus's double life official. While she'd been planning their fairy tale wedding, he'd already committed to another woman under local law. Her marriage, legally valid under British law, was emotionally meaningless in Marcus's actual life. The financial investigation exposed the true nature of Chun Global Properties. The company wasn't Marcus's inherited empire. It was owned by the Al-Hashimi family, Layla's relatives who'd welcomed Marcus through marriage. His British identity served as international front while his Emirati identity handled local operations. "Your husband has been using your financial expertise to enhance their money laundering operations," Layla continued, producing bank statements and transaction records. "The investment advice you provided has helped them move money through London markets more efficiently." Elena's professional success, her greatest pride, had been built on criminal activity. Every brilliant strategy she developed, every market prediction that enhanced their wealth, had been part of sophisticated financial crime. Her mathematical genius had been weaponized. Medical records proved the deepest betrayal. While Elena underwent fertility treatments, desperately trying to conceive, Layla had given birth to 2 children with Marcus's full support. The same man who told Elena they should wait had been attending school plays and birthday parties for children she didn't know existed. The investigation revealed Marcus's sophisticated code switching. Elena's discovery of Marcus's complete deception pushed her beyond grief into something darker. The divorce papers she found in his locked office during his latest Abu Dhabi trip outlined her systematic destruction. Marcus would retain all properties acquired during marriage, citing his pre-existing empire. Her consultancy contributions would be dismissed as minor advisory services. Most devastating was the adultery accusation, supported by fabricated evidence that would destroy her reputation in London's financial community. Private investigators Marcus had hired documented her every movement for months, photographing innocent business lunches and presenting them as affairs. Her late nights reviewing portfolios were characterized as suspicious absences. Even her friendship with investigator Layla Hassan was twisted into evidence of deceptive behavior. Marcus had been gathering ammunition to destroy her professionally while kissing her goodnight every evening. The timeline showed papers would be filed within weeks, leaving Elena with nothing but legal bills and permanently damaged reputation. Her mental state fractured completely. Sleep became impossible as her mind raced through scenarios. She stopped eating, surviving on coffee and betrayal. Friends who called found her distracted, paranoid, convinced everyone had known about Marcus's deception. The mathematical precision that had always been Elena's strength became torment. She calculated the years Marcus had stolen from her reproductive life, the fertility treatments he'd encouraged while fathering children with another woman. She computed financial losses from investments made in good faith, but built on criminal foundations. Most painful was the emotional investment. 4 years of love given to a man who saw her as convenient business partner. The planning began with the same methodical approach Elena applied to complex financial strategies. If Marcus could orchestrate elaborate deceptions, she could orchestrate a confrontation, forcing him to face consequences. She researched Dubai's legal system, understanding exactly what evidence would expose his crimes. Elena booked their anniversary suite at the Atlantis Hotel for March 15th, exactly 4 years after their first night together in Dubai. The irony appealed to her systematic mind, using the symbol of their relationships beginning to mark its definitive end. She arranged Marcus's favorite dinner, lamb makbuz with traditional spices he'd introduced her during early courtship. The marble trophy sat on their penthouse shelf, a business award Chin Global had received for sustainable development. 8 pounds of polished stone, heavy enough to shatter more than just misconceptions. Elena hadn't planned it as weapon, but its symbolic value was perfect. Their business success would become instrument of their final conversation. Her preparations extended beyond emotional confrontation. She transferred remaining personal assets to London accounts Marcus couldn't access. She wrote letters to her mother and close friends explaining discoveries about Marcus's double life, without revealing confrontation plans. Evidence was organized with courtroom precision. Photographs of Marcus's second family arranged chronologically, financial documents proving money laundering operations, medical records showing Layla's pregnancies alongside Elena's failed treatments. Marcus arrived at Atlantis at 7 on March 15th, expecting romantic anniversary celebration. Elena had played her role perfectly for days, discussing their relationship's early memories and expressing gratitude for their life together. He brought white roses, the same flowers from their first date, genuinely pleased by her apparent sentimentality. Dinner conversation was surreally normal. Marcus discussed his latest development, a luxury resort on Palm Jumeirah. Elena asked interested questions about construction timelines and investment returns, playing supportive wife role one final time. The man across from her seemed so familiar, so much the husband she'd loved, that she almost doubted her own evidence. "I've been thinking about our future," Elena said as dessert arrived, "about what we want from the next phase of our lives." Marcus smiled, reaching across to squeeze her hand. "I want whatever makes you happy," he said, the same word from their engagement. Elena began laying out photographs systematically, like presenting evidence to a jury. Marcus's expression shifted from confusion to shock to cold calculation as he recognized images of his other life. She watched him process implications, his mind clearly racing through potential explanations and damage control. "We need to discuss Layla al-Hashimi," Elena said quietly, "and your children with her, and your plans to divorce me while keeping everything we've built together." The transformation in Marcus was instantaneous and terrifying. The charming husband disappeared, replaced by a stranger whose eyes held no warmth. This was the man who'd orchestrated elaborate deceptions across continents, who'd used love as weapon and marriage as business strategy. "You have no right to interfere in family matters you don't understand," Marcus said, his voice carrying authority Elena had never heard. "Layla and the children are my real family. You were always a business arrangement." The words hit like physical blows. For years dismissed as business arrangement. Her desire for children mocked while he celebrated birthdays with another woman's offspring. Her expertise exploited while her personal worth was deemed negligible. "You used me," Elena said, voice barely controlled. "My reputation, my skills, my money. And now you're planning to destroy me to protect yourself." Marcus stood, straightening his jacket with casual confidence. "You'll sign the divorce papers and accept the settlement. Fighting will only make things worse. My family owns half of Dubai. Who do you think the courts will believe?" Elena realized Marcus wasn't just planning to abandon her. He was planning to destroy her, so completely she could never threaten his other life. The man she'd loved had never existed. In his place stood a predator who'd identified her vulnerabilities and exploited them with surgical precision. "This conversation is over," Marcus said, moving toward the door. "My lawyers will contact you tomorrow." But Elena had spent 4 years learning that when Marcus decided a conversation was over, it was really over. This time she would determine when their relationship ended. The marble trophy felt heavier than 8 pounds as Elena lifted it from the side table. For years of betrayal, manipulation, and stolen dreams crystallized into a single moment of terrible clarity. Marcus turned back toward her, perhaps sensing movement, and their eyes met one final time. "No, Marcus," Elena said with mathematical precision. "Now it's over." The first blow caught Marcus across his left temple as he turned toward the door. The marble trophy connected with a sound like shattering glass. He stumbled sideways, blood immediately streaming down his face, shock replacing the cold confidence that had dominated moments before. Elena watched with analytical detachment, noting how quickly his expensive shirt absorbed the spreading crimson. "You destroyed 2 families," Elena said, raising the trophy again as Marcus tried to steady himself against the suite's wall. "You stole 4 years of my life. You made me an accomplice to your crimes." The second blow struck his raised arms as he tried to shield his head. Marcus collapsed to his knees, gasping for breath, his eyes wide with realization that the controlled wife he'd manipulated was gone forever. Blood pooled on white marble floors, creating patterns that reminded Elena of abstract art they'd collected together. "Please," Marcus whispered, the word barely audible. "Elena, please. We can work this out." But Elena was beyond negotiation. Her mathematical mind cataloged each injury with clinical precision, while her emotional core released 4 years of suppressed rage. The third strike was delivered with the same methodical accuracy she'd once applied to closing deals. Marcus Chun died on the floor of their anniversary suite at 8:47 p.m., surrounded by evidence of his double life and shattered remains of what Elena had believed was their perfect marriage. She sat back in the chair where dinner had begun, the bloody trophy resting in her lap, and felt strange completion. The phone call to Dubai police came at 8:52 p.m. "This is Elena Rodriguez in the presidential suite at Atlantis Hotel," she said with the same calm precision she'd used for conference calls. "I've just killed my husband. Please send investigators immediately." Elena made no attempt to clean blood from her hands or change her stained dress. When officers arrived 12 minutes later, they found her sitting motionless beside Marcus's body. Evidence of his deception still spread across the dining table like accusation. She answered initial questions with complete honesty, showing them photographs and documents that motivated her actions. "He had another family," she explained to Detective Inspector Khalid Rahman, who arrived to manage the crime scene. "He was planning to destroy my reputation and steal everything I'd worked for. I couldn't let him win." The investigation revealed the full scope of Marcus's deception to shocked Dubai community. Media outlets seized the story: double life ends in death, hedge fund wife's deadly revenge, bigamist businessman killed by betrayed spouse. Headlines dominated international news cycles for weeks. Layla Al-Hashimi learned about Elena's existence through a police phone call seeking to understand Marcus's family situation. The woman who believed herself Marcus's only wife discovered she'd been sharing her husband for 4 years. Her children, ages 4 and 2, would grow up knowing their father had been murdered by a woman they'd never known existed. The financial investigation expanded across international jurisdictions as authorities discovered the true extent of money laundering operations. The Al-Hashimi family empire faced scrutiny from banking regulators across Asia and Europe. Assets worth hundreds of millions were frozen, pending investigation into legitimate ownership. Elena's trial began 6 months later in Dubai criminal court, attracting international media attention. The prosecution, led by Chief Prosecutor Ahmed Al-Mansouri, painted Elena as cold-blooded killer who'd planned murder with the same calculation she'd applied to financial crimes. The defendant arranged every detail of this confrontation, Al-Mansouri argued during opening statements. She chose the location, prepared the evidence, and brought the weapon. This was premeditated murder disguised as passion. Elena's defense team, headed by prominent lawyer Fatima Alzer, built their case around temporary insanity caused by cumulative psychological abuse. Expert witnesses testified about devastating impact of discovering systematic betrayal, financial exploitation, and reproductive sabotage simultaneously. Mrs. Rodriguez was driven to psychological breaking point by abuse that destroyed her sense of reality, Alzair argued. She discovered her marriage, her career success, and her hopes for children had all been deliberately manipulated by a man who saw her as business asset rather than human being. The trial revealed intimate details of both families' destruction. Layla testified about her shock at learning of Elena's existence, describing how Marcus had convinced her he was a divorced British businessman who'd converted to Islam from genuine conviction. Elena's mother, Rosa, flew from New York to testify about her daughter's transformation from loving, controlled woman into someone consumed by betrayal. Medical experts debated whether Elena's actions constituted temporary insanity or calculated revenge. Prosecutors emphasized methodical preparation, while defense attorneys highlighted psychological trauma of discovering systematic deception across multiple life aspects. The verdict came after 4 days of jury deliberation. Elena Rodriguez was found guilty of second-degree murder, acknowledging extreme emotional circumstances while rejecting temporary insanity defense. Judge Mariam Al-Rashid sentenced Elena to 18 years in prison with possibility of deportation to the United States after serving 12 years. This court recognizes extraordinary circumstances that drove Mrs. Rodriguez to violence, Judge Al-Rashid stated during sentencing. However, we cannot condone taking justice into one's own hands regardless of provocation involved. Elena's final statement to the court became internationally quoted. I calculated the cost of my actions against the cost of allowing Marcus to destroy more lives. On purely mathematical basis, the solution was clear. The case triggered significant changes in Dubai's expatriate community and international financial oversight. Banking institutions implemented stricter monitoring of complex international transactions. Expatriate organizations developed support systems for families dealing with cultural and legal complexities in international marriages. 5 years later, Elena Rodriguez serves her sentence at Al-Awar Women's Prison, where she teaches mathematics to fellow inmates and maintains correspondence with academic colleagues. She's written a book about financial crime detection that's used in business schools globally. Layla Al-Hashimi relocated to London with her children, changing their surname and building new life away from their father's shadow. The Al-Hashimi family empire never recovered. Properties sold to pay legal fees and settlements. In her prison cell, Elena maintains a photograph from her Cambridge graduation. Sometimes she calculates how different her life might have been with different choices, different trust, different people. But even in confinement, Elena Rodriguez stands by her final calculation. In a world where justice is often denied and truth frequently buried under wealth and influence, sometimes the only remaining solution requires accepting consequences that extend far beyond mathematical precision. The perfect life she'd built with Marcus Chun had been an elaborate illusion, but the justice she delivered was devastatingly real, and in Elena's analytical mind, that equation finally balanced.